Okay. We've been talking about prayer for the past few weeks, in between the holidays and holidays material. Uh, I suspect in the next few weeks we'll be able to really focus on it. Thank you. I can use one too. This is a great prayer book. If you don't have a copy of it, get one. We sell it in our gift shop, and you don't have to buy this edition. They make a soft-covered edition. Or they make an edition with like a brownish cover. This is the RCA edition. The difference between this edition and the one with the brownish cover, it's got a different introduction, written by the RCA, Rabbinical Council of America, and it's got the prayer for the State of Israel in it, where the other one doesn't. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. It's got almost everything in Jewish life that you would need. From the blessings to putting up a mezuzah, the grace after meals, the blessings for a bris, or a pidyon aben, or getting married, or whatever. I mean, almost everything is in here, so it's a good thing to have around. And it's great. There are great explanations in there. We're talking about prayer, and just to bring it to bear again, and I'm going to re-emphasize over and over again because I think it's very, very important that that you get it, that it be reinforced. There are two main prayers, which are Shema and the Shemona Esrei or the Amida. Right. Okay. And what we've been focusing on today is the Shemona Esrei. We talked about the structure of the prayer with the blessings before the Shema and after the Shema. We did that in only terms of structure. We're going to do that in much more detail after we finish with the Shemona Esrei. Today we're dealing with the Shemona Esrei. The Shemona Esrei is a combination of 18 meditations. It begins, let's see, here it begins on page 97, 98 I think, in the Art Scroll Siddur. Actually there are 19. We're going to learn why there are 19. Even though we call it Shemona Esrei, which means 18. Shemona Esrei, right? Shemona Esrei means 18. Shemona is 8, Esrei is 10. Shemona Esrei means 18. So there are 19 blessings. It's a Jewish way. You don't have to understand. And there's a reason for everything. And it has to make. By the way, when you go through Jewish life and Jewish observance and things have to make sense. Almost always. If they don't make sense to you, you keep asking until they make sense. Okay? If things don't make sense, keep probing and asking until they make sense. You'll eventually reach a level where most things will make sense, hopefully, and certain things don't make sense. You're struggling with. So you keep struggling with them until they do make sense. It may be a life's work till you begin to understand certain things. Okay. That aside, the Shemona Esrei has a triple structure. 3 parts. Beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is always the same. The end is always the same. Regardless of whether it's the morning, the evening, the afternoon service, or whether it's Shabbos or a weekday or holiday or Yom Kippur. It's always beginning and the end is always the same. The middle changes. The middle, as it was originally envisioned, was a series of petitions. Okay? The beginning section is mostly setting the stage of your relationship with God. Sort of, people have described it as an introductory letter. You go before someone to ask for something. A big favor, right? And it's nice to have yichus. Yichus is a Hebrew word. It's also used in Yiddish. It means you have a connection to this person. That they're going to give you what you need, not just because you asked for it, but because you establish that you have a connection. That my father was your best friend. Or so whatever connection you want to make, that you can make with them, and he has some sort of tie or to that other person, and so therefore be more inclined to help you. Well, this is essentially what we do in the first section of the Amida. We begin it with a prayer called the Avot. Avot means fathers. We establish ourselves as the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we ask God to be kind to us for their sake, not for our own sake. This is one of the most profound blessings you'll ever find anywhere. And this blessing can be one of the most profound spiritual experiences. I want to come back to this after I go through the whole structure and tell you you should really learn this blessing by heart and learn how to use it spiritually and even as a little meditation to really connect yourself with God. There are some very profound things in here that are just not obvious to someone who looks at it for the first, second, or 20th time. But I'll try to point them out to you. As a matter of fact, the sages of the Talmud said, whoever does not say this first blessing with kavanah, with proper intention, feeling, and understanding, has not fulfilled his obligation to recite the whole Shemona Esrei. And yet, if you recite this blessing with the proper feeling, intention, and then you lose it afterwards, because you just can't stay focused on everything 100% all the time, you do fulfill your obligation to say the Shemona Esrei. That's how important this first blessing is. Sort of establishing your connection with God. The second blessing, this is mostly review, but it's okay because it's important. It's called Gvurot. Gvurot means power, might, powers, might. Talk about God as being the ultimate power of the universe. One of the wonderful things that He does. Well, that's a good way of buttering Him up. You're going to ask Him for stuff, you butter Him up. See how wonderful He is, how powerful He is, right? But also at the same time, you establish your relationship with God by saying where you fit into the grand scheme of things. Ata Gibor, you're a Gibor God. A Gibor is someone who's very mighty and almost a warrior. L'olam, forever. You could do things that no one else can do. What could He do? Is mechaye meitim. And the last line on 98, you can resurrect the dead. Actually, that's a poor translation. What's the word chai mean? Life. So mechaye is one who brings life. You can bring life to the dead. What does that mean?
Reincarnation.
Maybe it means reincarnation. Maybe it means that after we die, if we have really not done all the work that we should have done while we were here, if we haven't learned everything that we should have learned while we were here, maybe we need to come back. For a second trip.
Okay.
Maybe a third trip. Maybe there are a lot of old souls sitting here now, right? And this is your last trip, so you better get it right. Right? Reincarnation is a basic belief in Judaism. However, it's not a universal belief. There are sages, great sages, who did not follow this belief. And you do not have to believe in reincarnation to be a good Jew. As a matter of fact, you don't have to believe in anything to be a good Jew. And there's one thing I haven't emphasized recently, but I want to mention it. Christianity has a creed. You must believe. You must believe Jesus is the Messiah and God, and the virgin birth, and the whole set of doctrines. Creed. What do they call it? There's a name for it. Yeah. And there's also. Why is it when you cry, no one's going to love you except your mother? Mothers always love you. That's why we talk about God as Harachaman, the All-Merciful. Comes from the Hebrew Rechem, which is womb. God is Harachaman, the womb. What a great, it's unbelievable to me how people want to make the Bible gender correct if they would only translate it properly. Imagine putting in the name for God, the womb. How could you get more feminine than that? And it's okay to put the feminine names for God, the Shekhinah, which is a feminine name. Even God's name, Yud Hey Vav Hey, is a feminine ending. People who have a problem with the masculine use of God's name don't understand the Hebrew. That's that simple. All right. If you're not loved in your life, and God loves you unconditionally like a mother loves you, but if you don't feel loved in your life, it's because you are not giving love. If there are things missing in your life, if that's missing in life, we need to find a place to put it. So, I think praying for love is a special kind of prayer. It comes under asking for forgiveness. It comes through reevaluating yourself. But other than that, it's not fair to pray to God and say, make someone love me. Not fair. You've got to make yourself lovable. Spring. I don't know whose that was, but when you're asking God for success, for knowledge, to help you when you get in trouble, to heal you, to bring peace, what does all these things add up to? It adds up to a strength. That's the sum total of it. It makes you much stronger when you have these things in your life. So I think they're covered. But we've added a lot of things that were not in this list. One gets finished praying and really going through all this every day, pounding it in 3 times a day probably. It really becomes part of you. Let's go through the last section. By the way, in this last prayer on 109, acceptance of prayer, Shema Kolenu, our sages say that's the place to add your own prayers. What? From the bottom of your heart, he's asking God to hear your prayers. Add your own. If you haven't found the spot before to put it in, that's where you insert it. And you must find something that you need to pray for every day that's not in this specific formula. If you can't think of anything, and you haven't done your homework, take the time to think of something to pray for. By the way, there's a dilemma. Maybe I won't get to the third section today because I need to discuss this with you. And tell me if I discussed this with you before because I don't remember. I said before that God puts our souls into our bodies so we can grow, so that all the challenges and difficult experiences of our lives, and the challenges don't have to be difficult experiences, are there as opportunities for growth. One gets sick, that could be an opportunity for growth. One shows a great deal of courage and strength in fighting the sickness, their souls may have grown enormously. If one can gather, even one who is, for instance, I've seen this. You see a person deteriorate to almost a vegetable. They have dementia and Alzheimer's, and why do they live? Why does God mixture them like? Why don't you just take them? And yet I've seen this happen, and an entire family rally around this person, taking turns, being with them, coming together. That vegetable of sorts lying there has managed to unite a family in a bond that could not be created otherwise. I've seen these things happen. Okay, so someone gets sick and I pray that they should get better. Right? I pray they should get better. Maybe they needed this sickness as part of their learning experience, as part of what God had in store for them. That's why they got sick. If that's the case, why should God heal them any faster? Because of my prayers. Why should He interfere with the gift? The sickness is a gift in the sense that He's given them to help them grow. It's very interesting if you think about it. It's a dilemma.
God had the plans from the very beginning.
All right, so yeah, good plans to make them sick. So why should you listen to me?
Well, that was in it.
But you didn't know that God had.
What?
We do not know what he has in mind, so how can it hurt?
Well,
All right, yeah, okay. So you can pray, can't hurt.
maybe.
I'll say the prayers, it can't hurt. But why should they help?
Perhaps you pray that that person will have the strength to get through
Okay. Let.
what they need.
Okay, that's good.
To learn
That's
the
very
les-
good.
To learn the lessons, to learn them quickly, or to
Okay.
learn them with ease, or
However, that's not what we say in the prayer. We say heal them. Make them better. Make it go away. What would you say, Beverly? I don't know.
I didn't, same thing she
All right. So it's really a dilemma if you think about it on a deeper level. And I've been struggling with this somewhat. And I've talked to a few people about it. I've come up with something. I think it's interesting. I pray that they should get better. One of the reasons that I have a right to do so is because I'm hurting too. Hurts me too. Not fair, God. All right, He needed it for His growth, but it hurts me too. It hurts me that he's sick or she's sick. And also through prayer, and that person needs to pray themselves. Your prayers will only be effective, really, to help a person if they're praying themselves. Hopefully, through their prayer, they become a different person than they were before. Maybe the purpose of the sickness was to bring them down to a self-evaluation of themselves and their lives, and appreciation of what life, of how valuable, truly valuable life is. And maybe if they can come to that in 1 week of sickness, maybe they won't need 6 months of it. You know what I mean? So maybe maybe that'll be part of it. Yeah.
Maybe it isn't always just the sick person that's going through something. It's the people around them that have to be going through something.
Right. That was my first part.
Yeah,
That was the
yeah,
first part.
Yeah.
Obviously. But also from the point of view of the sick person themselves, maybe what they needed to get out of it, maybe they ought to take it very seriously and try to and try to find that that lesson and learn it quicker. And also, by the way, sickness can be a great opportunity for growth. When your world is falling apart all around you, and you can be a mensch, and that's a great word, by the way, if you don't know what it means. A mensch just means great human being. You can be a mensch and reach out and help others. Even though your world's falling apart, you've grown a great deal. You've grown a great deal.
But God has instilled that in you.
It may be in there, but you got to find it. It's not easy when your world is falling apart to just show how you can. I could tell you countless stories of people who were on their deathbeds, languishing for weeks, and they gave strength to everyone around them. There, when you walked in, they asked, "How are you feeling? Is everything all right with you?" They're sitting and dying, or laying and dying, and they want to know what's the. And don't worry, I'm going to be all right. I want you to make sure this is. They are giving you strength. I've seen it again, and unfortunately, as a rabbi, I get to see a lot of death and death experiences. I see it again and again and again and again.
But you're saying it's better to pray, in a sense you're saying it's better to pray for yourself than for someone else who you're praying, because I'm hurting. this person's dying, but it hurts me. I was under the impression that it's better to pray for the community than for yourself.
That's an element of it. Well, when you're praying for something specific, how would you include a prayer for someone who's sick in terms of the community? You pray for them.
At least it's outside of you,
Yeah.
at least for someone other than yourself.
Here's that element aspect of it. Whenever you pray for something you really want, you got to make a deal with God. You got to make a deal. I say, God, I'm going to make it worth your while. That's what the Mishnah Barak says. Let's take a look. Take a look. The prayer for the healing. At the end, let me see if I can find it here.
What, the Jews there? Yeah, 50.
Yeah, 144.
There's a-
144. Prayer for a sick person. May you bless our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moses, Aaron, David, and Solomon. May you bless and heal. You mention the sick person's name. Son of. We always say that we mention the mother's name. Always the mother's name. Why the mother's name and not the father's name? The son or daughter of the mother. Because when it really counts in prayer, you pray for you ask for the mama. Always call for mama. That unconditional love is what you're looking for. Okay? Because name of the supplicant, you are the one who is bringing this prayer, will contribute charity on their behalf. All right, that's the deal. Right? And you give it regardless of whether they get sick or whether they get better or not. But you're making it. You're going to give charity, or you're going to give your time, whatever you want to insert there. You're making a deal with God. It's not mercenary. It's
Give it.
tangible thing and saying, God, look, I want you to do something for me. I'm going to do something for you. Make it worth your while. Always, don't put yourself in the position of always asking for things. Give me, without giving back. Without giving back. That's the prayer. That's the prayer for healing. So, my point here is, and I'm going to close with this: when you pray for something that you want, why should you pray for prosperity if God determines that you need to be in this financial bracket that you're in for your own spiritual growth? What merit do you have that God should give it to you? And if God gives you prosperity, maybe you won't learn the lessons that you need to know by being in this particular financial bracket.
You lose it.
Yeah, maybe you lose it. You lose the opportunity. So why should God give it to you? He wouldn't be doing you a favor. So why should you pray for it? The idea is to, in the midst of the prayer for prosperity, to understand. Look, here's where I am, God, financially, and I have to learn the importance of money and the value of it, and I haven't been helping out others or been as charitable as I should have been, or whatever lessons you may think you need to get from that. And then when you've shown God, maybe that in the process of asking for more, that you really learned your lesson in what you have. Maybe, all right, now you can have more.
Yeah,
Because you don't need to be on that other
I
level.
mean, you don't pray and say, well, heal this person so that I can be rotten and ugly to them, or give me more money so that I can go be stingy and cruel. I
Right.
mean, generally, when you pray and say, I'm going to do something good with whatever it is.
Aha, you got it.
Good feeling.
That's it. That's the Jewish way of doing it. Right. Right, make me more prosperous, God, and I promise you that I'm going to spread it around. I'm going to do your work on this earth. I'm going to help spread around the wealth that you created, to bring it to where it's needed.
Exactly.
When you make yourself an instrument of God, that's it. That's the point I'm trying to make. Exactly. So the purpose of the prayer is not just to ask for things, but to change yourself in the process. That's what I was trying to get at originally when I said the Hebrew word for prayer is tefillah, which means to judge or to wonder, to change, which means to wonder about where you are and judge yourself and change yourself in the process. One of the reasons the Shema is considered a major prayer, one of the two major prayers, but there's not one word of the things that we normally consider prayer. Like, what were they? Petitioning, asking forgiveness,
Peace.
praise,
Guilt.
praise,
Praise.
and thanks. Right? It doesn't contain any one of those things, the Shema. But it's a way of, it's a statement of faith, and by reciting it, we hope to change ourselves. So that's the purpose of prayer. And my God, if you do that 3 times a day with a certain amount of awareness and focus, it can help change you. It really can. That's the purpose of it. Okay, next week we'll do the last section. I'll probably review a little bit in this section. I hope it'll begin to sink in.
No.